It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
All right, it's Jill on Money. It's the weekend, and we are so happy that you are joining us. It's fantastic. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life, and I'm Jill Schlesinger, and Mark is running the show, and we love the idea that you just stay in touch with us all the time, even in the summer, even while you're on your break. It's so easy. Just give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. No drunk dialing. Or, of course, you can send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. And you can tweet your question at Jill on Money. But there's lots of ways to get us. That's the beautiful thing. I want to point out to everybody out there who may have heard about this, but we didn't talk about it last weekend. And I don't know why, but I just put it out there because we did get the annual report of the Board of the Social Security Trustees, which said that the Social Security Trust Fund is going to run out, the retirement fund, in 2035. You know what's great about that, Mark, 2035? It is the exact year I plan to claim my Social Security benefit. Unfortunately, the fund is not going to be sufficient to pay me my full benefit. I will get 3/4 of it. So some of you, some people asked about this because I did a TV segment about it. And you know, I think the confusion is that people think that Social Security is going broke. That's not broke. It's just that there were more people paying into the system than there were people who were retired. And Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system funded by those payroll taxes, right? That FICA line item on your pay stub. Each of us as employees pays 6.2% tax on our earnings up to $127,200. That's the Social Security wage base. And then your employer pays 6.2%. And if you're lucky enough to be self-employed, you pay 12.4%. You pay both the employer and the employee portion. But look, gang, this is a really interesting misconception. A lot of people will say, my Social Security. What you're paying in that tax, in that FICA tax, is not something that goes into a fund that's called the Mark Talercio Social Security Fund. It is to pay for the people who are already retired. So what happened was when there were lots more people paying into the system than people who were retired, we ran a surplus. That surplus became the Social Security Trust Fund. Now baby boomers are getting older and they're tapping the system. And so guess what? Those costs for Social Security are now running larger than the money coming in. So the surplus is going down, and it's going to be depleted in 2035 when I plan to claim my Social Security benefit. Now, at that time, we still have millions and millions of Americans who are working. But again, there are only enough of them to pay out 75% of the promised benefits. And as a result, if you were expecting to get, say, $2,000 a month, you're only going to get $1,500 a month. So here are your fixes. And we've talked to Social Security experts on the show, but it's come up again simply because politics is crazy right now. But because everyone says, oh, it's going broke. It's not going broke. So here's what the government can do. Congress can vote and say we should actually increase the Social Security wage base. Now it's at $127.2. Maybe you got to pay 6.2% up to $150 or $160. Maybe the government will say we're going to increase the wage base and we're also going to increase the actual amount of taxes. Instead of 6.2%, maybe it's 6.5%. Maybe it's 7%. I don't know. And then, of course, there's the idea of making people wait longer before they can claim Social Security benefits. But that's always I always feel like that's not a great idea because people then have that sense that, you know, it's regressive. People who do manual labor, what if you can't do your job? But anyway, Social Security is fixable. That's, I guess, the most important thing. So don't freak. Go to jillonmoney.com. I got a nice Q&A about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. All right, let's go to the phones because otherwise Mark's going to yell at me. Scott from San Francisco is on the line. Hey, Scott, welcome to Jill on Money. What can I do for you?
Good morning, Jill, and thank you for that little speech this morning about Social Security.
Sorry.
Hits right on.
Okay.
Hits right on the button about what I was calling about. And I was trying to see if, first of all, I agree with you that one of the solutions would be to raise the cap on Social Security. Just why even have it? Why not just tax all income? Then that would be, you could give higher income earners a little bit more Social Security if they wanted to take it. Anyway, the Social Security start date, there seems to be some benefit of waiting until you're 70 and a half. If you reach full retirement age,
Yes.
it goes up 8%, so you reach 70 and a half.
Yeah, it's like
Or if you take it earlier. What's your take on that? And then I want to ask about RMDs for IRAs.
You got it.
A chart or a formula?
So here's the deal. You can take Social Security as early as age 62, but doing so will permanently cut the amount of money you receive from Social Security for the rest of your life. And if you are married and your spouse is going to rely on your work record to claim half your Social Security benefit, he or she would also have a permanent reduction, which is why, if possible, it would be really great if people didn't claim early, because again, that there's a permanent reduction. So then you've got think about Social Security choices, 3 big dates. One is 62. The second date is your full retirement age, which is based on the year that you were born. And you can go to ssa.gov to figure out what your full retirement age is. And you should go there anyway. You can figure out how much money there is going to be coming in. And then the last piece of it is 70, the last choice. And as you said, you get something called delayed retirement benefits the longer you wait. And so let's say your full retirement age was 66 or 67. If you wait till you're 70 to claim, you will maximize your Social Security benefit. It will essentially amount to about an 8% increase for every year that you wait. For every month, there's like this formula that's used. And that's a risk-free 8%. So you might say to yourselves who are listening out there, hey, you know what? That's pretty awesome because I'll just do it. There's a trade-off, which is it works really well as long as you live long enough to make this equation work. So if you wait to claim at 70 and you die when you're 72, that was a bad trade-off. If you wait till you're 70 and you live till you're 90, it was a great trade-off. I think the break-even's about 82 or 3 right now. So for people who have good longevity and good health, waiting makes sense. Now, hang on one second, Scott. We're going to come back to you because I want to talk about your RMD question, and then we'll talk more about Social Security. You are listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Have a question? Call anytime, 24/7, 855-411-JILL. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL. Our email address, askjill at jillonmoney.com. Before we went to the break, we were talking to Scott from San Francisco, and we're talking about Social Security. So we got the 3 dates, Scott: 62, your full retirement age, and 70. You know, the one problem I should have brought up that you should be aware of course, is that a lot of people don't have a choice. They just need the money. So tell me about yourself and what you think you might need from the Social Security system.
Well, the only thing I like about Social Security, it pays my Medicare payment, but I don't need it at this time. I I take care of 2 disabled guys, and that brings me about $3,400 a month, tax-free. I also do some soccer referee and property management, and putzing around with fixing things and helping people, and so those things bring in another couple $1,000 a month.
And
I'm all set.
how old are you now?
I'm 67.
Okay, so have you claimed yet or not?
I did a file and suspend right before the law changed. Right, like 3 days before the law changed, I did file and suspend. I didn't take anything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so you have it shot. So now you've got what we call in the business a free look, if you will. You can always go back and claim whenever you want, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, look, you're in good health. It sounds like you're still running around soccer fields, and that's good. Are you married or are you single?
I'm married. This is my second marriage, and unfortunately, I didn't understand. Nobody told me the rules about getting remarried before the 10-year period. I was for about a week, and I just went ahead and got married anyways.
Gosh.
I could have waited. I could have collected on the first one, which was made about 10 times more than the second one, but I don't care about that. So.
Of course, you did it for love.
Yeah.
All right. Now, so tell me about what else is going on. You're married, you're 67, you've done file and suspend, you've got good income. What else is going on? What do you need to know about the required minimum distribution?
Well, it doesn't seem to be like there should be some kind of a chart or something. It's okay, all right, Scott, you're going to take 4% the first year, 5% the second year, but it's not like that. It's just some kind of a complicated formula.
Yes. I'm sorry to say. Did you like me? I just admitted to it. Yep, it is. It is a annoying calculation that, you know what? It's I guess that there must be some rhyme or reason as to why the government would choose 70 and a half. I'm not exactly sure why they do that. If you want to look, I found this there. Of course, there's a zillion calculators. There's one on the FINRA website that I like to use if you just want to kind of play with that a little bit. It's finra.org. And just, you know what, if you Google FINRA RMD calculator, it'll come up. But it'll give you what is essentially the calculation on your behalf, right? So all you have to do is say, here's how much money is in my retirement accounts. Here is my age at the end, at year end, and then it'll calculate for you what it is. So how much money do you have in retirement assets right now?
Well, I had about 500, and I took out 100 and converted it to a Roth. And then my daughter got married, so I chipped in 100 to help them buy a house. So that wiped out most of my Roth. And well, you have kids, you know. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't care. It's all right.
That's all right.
So right now I have about $340.
And so what's the question around the RMD? Like, I mean, you have to take it. So you'd want to take as little as you possibly could in order to minimize your tax hit, especially while you're making money. And it sounds, I mean, some of it you said was obviously not taxable, but, you know, for whatever is taxable, I think it's important for you to just try to, at the very least, minimize your tax hit during this time. I mean, it doesn't sound like you have cash flow problems. You don't need the money, right?
Right. I don't have any car payment or loan payment. Of course, we all have property taxes and insurance and auto insurance and registration and all that stuff. We have buy food now and then. So
yeah. And by the way, is it your intention to remain in California?
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I like here in San Francisco. I like it.
All right. I'm only asking because I literally just read this article about how housing prices are up like a gazillion % in California. So, you know, like if I could convince you to sell your house in your place in California and then maybe move to like Washington State where there's no state income tax, then I could really minimize your tax hit for the RMD. But, you know, you're not going to change your whole life to escape taxation.
Well, and my kids and grandkids are down here, so I don't care about that other stuff. I care about them.
And so that's
I
what
wanna
you
see
got.
them.
You got your priorities set, man. I think you're in good shape. I like the fact that you're working. It's a great. I think that most people listening to this could really benefit from this concept, which is, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I'm getting some money in the door. It's like you're taking advantage of the gig economy in your 60s, and that really does help you prevent dipping into the retirement funds when maybe you might not have to, so that you can make this money last. And I think that's the key here, that most people are struggling to be able to say, how can I make my money last? And one of the biggest ways you can do that is to not dip into the money until you have to. And putting that off by working is really huge. So I'm giving you a big gold star for that. How about that?
Okay, I just have one other question, if I could, just
Sure.
related to that. Okay, so I want to thank my mom and dad for telling me up front to spend less than I earn, and that was very helpful. It was very, very helpful, and that's what I've lived by for the last 45 years. That's what helped me accumulate something. Anyway, is there any way to make the IRA grow faster than the rate of required minimum distribution so that I can leave the chunk to either my daughter or the grandchildren on the IRA?
Yeah. I mean, but that's just having a good asset allocation model that will help you basically beat the rate of inflation. And if your assets are growing by, say, 5% a year, and which I know is not going to happen every single year, I think would be really, I think, at least in my mind, that's the way that you preserve your wealth. That's what you're trying to do. On the other hand, I don't want you to swing for the fences and start, making this some huge aggressive portfolio. But if you have a good balanced portfolio, you should be doing that. You should be beating the rate of inflation, and you should be hopefully staying a bit ahead of your required minimum distributions. So, at least in the early years. And as you know, if all you're doing is taking out the minimum required amount, that's what's really going to preserve it. Once you have to start dipping in for a wedding here and a house there and a this here and a that there, that is to me the problem. So keep that in mind. Don't worry. It's going to all be. It sounds to me like you've got a good game plan here, and in the abstract, leaving the money to your kids is a nice idea. But my number one priority for you is to make sure you live your life the way you want to live it. If you can do that, man, you won't be a burden on your kids. Most people, all you have to worry about is not being a burden on your kids. All right. Thank you so much for calling. It's always great to get those kinds of calls. Shaking it up. Scott from San Francisco. You're listening to Jill on Money. 855-411-JILL. Send an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Want to get in touch? Call or email any day, anytime. 855-411-JILL or ask Jill at jillonmoney.com.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we want to hear from you. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Let's blow through some emails. We got things to do here. Mark is saying the inbox is just bulging. So if you've sent an email, we'll get to it. I'm so sorry if we haven't gotten there yet, but we are working our way through. Alan writes that he just read a column that I wrote for my Tribune articles about keep it simple for the summer. And he said, I would like to give you another perspective for the advice to set up automatic bill payments. I know that there are advantages to doing this, but I've concluded there are too many reasons not to. Okay, fair enough. Alan says the risks are not worth it to him because he wants to see the bill, make sure it's correct, and then issue the payment on the date he wants to issue the payment. I can imagine that getting a credit back on an incorrect payment is harder after they have your money. There are just too many stories of errors by banks or companies failing to take the correct amount or sending the wrong place. No system is without risks. No one way is right for everyone. Just understand the pros and cons of each. I want the control rather than the possible convenience. Besides, if my buying a few stamps helps keep the post office employees employed when so many jobs are disappearing, that's fine with me. Thanks, Alan. I agree with that. It's true that for some people who are really up on their bill paying, that's great. I think that this was a bit more of advice for those who seem to be falling behind. And if they are worried about falling behind or if they tend to kind of blow off their bills, at least automating it for some portion of your bill would be really helpful, just to help avoid maintenance fees and penalties, etc. Austin writes that he is enjoying the show and the podcast. Hey, if you haven't done so, check out our podcast, Better Off. You can get it on Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. And so here's the question about Social Security, which I answered before. Liz Weston discussed Social Security will be around. I've heard a basic rule that when I can account hold on a second. So Austin is asking that he wants to account that 25% of his savings will come from Social Security and retirement. Do you agree with this now and in the future, say in 30 years? All right. So again, Social Security not going away, going to be with us. How you plan your retirement income is something different. And for that, I really think that you might want to check out some retirement calculators. And what you want to look at is you want to take into account what your Social Security is going to be and factor that in. So if you said I'm relying on Social Security for 100% of my retirement income, that doesn't make me feel very comfortable. But for some people, that's all they can do. What I just want it to be is part of the equation, not the only part. I don't think that this is something you're going to have to worry about, but I do think you're going to have to actually save in addition to it. Okay? Okay. Mandy writes, "Hi, Mark." That's right. You are working. You're writing to Mark. It's true. "You and Jill helped me with a question a couple of years ago, and the advice was helpful and appreciated. I have a question about my niece's 529 account. It's in my name. She is the beneficiary. My husband and I have been attempting to encourage our nieces and nephews to save for their college education by offering to match or double up to $1,000 for each niece and nephew. Our oldest niece just graduated high school. We're figuring out how to best use the savings towards paying for education. I love this girl already. She's going to community college for the first 2 years. Then we'll plan to transfer to an in-state public school for years 3 and 4. The community college payments will be twice a year. She has enough in her savings account to pay for the first semester this fall and will continue to work and may have enough for spring semester. She has $1,600 in the 529 under my name. She was going to finish contributing up to our match now that she received some graduation money. We have moved her account over to the Principal Plus option. She lives at home. If there are any, okay, so now the question is, how do we spend this money? Okay, so here's what I think you should do. The FAFSA form, you've got to basically report that she has this account that she's the beneficiary of. Therefore, what I would do is I would use the money that's in the 529 to pay for her first semester instead of she paying for it out of her savings account. I would hold that money that she has. Maybe I think that our goal is that by the time she gets to public school is to have the 529 used up, I think. So the question is, right now she's eligible for 40 to 50% of her college expenses, with at least some of that being a grant. what's the best way to keep FAFSA calculation in her favor? And that is, it's not actually, you know what? It's weird. FAFSA works better if you use up that 529. So I think you use up the 529 so she doesn't show assets once she's applying for the public college. So that's the input I have on that one. The second question, is the principal plus interest the best option? Yes, because she's using this money sooner rather than later. Should we put either the last bit of money in the 529, or should she leave it in savings? I'd leave it in savings. So here's what I think we should do. We use the 529 use that up, close it out. She's done. The rest of the money that's in savings is fine. Leave that, pay for it, and then as she applies for the public college, she'll show fewer assets in her name that have been saved for her. Because that 529 is obviously hers. Money that's in a savings account could be used for college, but it's not considered to be 100% for college. So I think that's the way we do it. You're very nice, Aunt. Very nice. Okay. You're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 65. Jill Schlesinger is here to help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Okay, let's get a message here from Maya, who says she is writing about her student loans. Hey, we just talked about student loans. She lives and works in New York City. She graduated back in December of 2016. She works in the arts, let's say that, because there's so many juicy details here. I don't want to out her into the universe. Anyway, okay. She's going to need a master's if she wants to move forward in her field, which already makes me annoyed for her. So that means she's going to have to go back to school for a graduate degree and relocate to Europe, higher standard of living with lower costs. So she's asking about how to prioritize her student loans. Right now, she is enrolled in a program through the federal government called the Revised Pay As You Earn Plan. She's got a 0 monthly payment, but she has to renew it in about a year, in June 2018. Her parents gave her a personal loan to pay off her credit card debt with 0% interest. Love those parents. So she's going to pay that back by the end of the year. She also contributes to an IRA and emergency savings through Betterment, which is the sponsor of my podcast. Get this, her annual salary is $32,000. She's saving. But she's saving, and she lives in New York. The question is, should I focus on my IRA and emergency savings only once I've built those up and consider my student loans since I don't need to make payments right now, or should I work on paying down the higher interest loans? So here's what she has. She's got loans. So there's two sets of loans. There's one that's subsidized and one that's unsubsidized, but they run up to 6.8%. So I think what I would do is this. I would not contribute to my IRA right now. I know that's blasphemy in this universe. I would build up my emergency reserve, but I really would look at paying down my loans as quickly as possible, and I would start with the highest interest loan first. So you've got a 6.8% loan, pay that down. Make extra payments on that. Do as much as you can to pay those loans down because you're going to have to then go to graduate school. So you're going to be stuck paying these loans for a long time. So my take is, try to have your 3 to 6 months in emergency reserves of your living expenses. You don't have to put money in the IRA immediately. Try to pay down the highest interest loans down to the lowest interest and work on that. That seems about as good as it's going to get right now. And I also think that that's a prudent way to approach it. So that's what I would do. Okay. I love this question. David is asking about getting his credit score. So remember, everyone, you can go and get your credits, pull your credit report at annualcreditreport.com. Remember, it is the only place you're going to get a free credit report that is authorized by federal law. Okay? Annualcreditreport.com. The problem, according to our questioner, David, is that he's gone to annualcreditreport.com. He's filled out all the information, but he's very leery about entering his Social Security number. And then he says, at the end, before giving the score, they ask for a credit card. Well, I don't know if this is the right site because this is free. So the site I'm talking about is annualcreditreport.com. And so I'm glad you checked with me because he said, I want to check it out with you to make sure you can vouch for its legitimacy. If you're on any other site besides annualcreditreport.com, then don't give that information. However, I don't think you're on the right site. So try to do that. Figure that out, please, because it's making me nervous for you all the way. Okay? All right. Wow, I've blown through a lot of these, haven't I? 2 minutes to go. All right, before we go to our break, so happy right now because I feel like I've gone through a lot of these, gone through all these questions and done a very fine job in doing that. Okay, so here is the question, which is, I am 66 years old. I have been working part-time. I also receive a pension from my career as a teacher. I have been banking my pension, but now seem to find myself in a situation where I need to spend part of that pension payment. Is that okay? Well, yeah, of course it's okay. I mean, you get a pension. You're allowed to spend it. I don't know why you're spending it, and I don't know why you're making yourself so crazy, but presumably if you are able to live off of even just a portion of the pension, I mean, it's amazing when people can bank these streams of income. That tells me that you're doing just fine. You know what? It's funny. People get really uptight about their stream of income in retirement because they usually stop getting a monthly check. But a pension is that. It's just a deferral of part of your pay. So presuming that you don't have to save that money for anything particular, go ahead and spend it. Give yourself some permission. Don't drive yourself crazy, okay? You're listening to Jill on Money. 855-411-JILL. Send an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We will be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. You can always send us an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. I got a note from someone at work who was asking me about a financial advisor. And it was really interesting because she said, considering that I am going to be inheriting a bunch of stocks from my grandmother, those stocks I don't plan to sell, is it still important to work with someone who is held to that fiduciary standard? This is what happened. I'm talking offline, just yakking with some people at work, and I'm explaining to them about the fiduciary standard. And I'm saying how, this is so important, and you really have to make sure that you're working with someone who puts your needs first, and just work with a certified financial planner, or or someone who is NAPFA, part of NAPFA, the National Association of Personal Finance. Anyway, we will go on and on and on, and then sort of offline, I got this email. So, I mean, first of all, yes, if you are simply just going to hold a bunch of stocks in an account and you don't want ongoing financial advice, that seems like, not particularly like a case that you would need a fiduciary. But then I would ask you another question. Why do you need to hold that at a wirehouse? Why wouldn't you just get a really cheap brokerage account? Go to TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab, or just have a holding tank where you're going to hold a bunch of stocks. And then the follow-up question, which I asked, which is, why aren't you going to sell anything? What's the purpose there? I mean, I just happen to know because I asked. Now we had this conversation back and forth, which is that there's like 8 stocks, and they're old blue chip stocks that seem really good, but I have a feeling that those stocks need to be sold, and there's no tax event in doing so, to fund other obligations. So there's my answer. Hey, stay tuned. Next hour, we have something really fun. Peter Greenberg, CBS News travel editor, will be joining us, and we're going across the globe. You're listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, which means it's time for Jill on Money, the show that makes money fun and just happens to answer all your financial questions. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
All right, it's hour number 2 of Jill on Money, and it's the summer. And I know you're thinking, I don't really want to talk about money so much, but how about something really fun? How about summer travel? How about that? Well, look no further than Peter Greenberg, who is the CBS News travel editor and my pal. He is a multiple Emmy-winning investigative reporter and has great tips. So I thought, let's bring him on. Peter Greenberg, joining me right now here on the Jill on Money Show. The world's in disarray. People are freaking out about traveling. I know that you have so many different aspects to your portfolio of travel. So you don't zone in on just domestic or just. So tell me, give me like a broad brush. How are you feeling around international travel given terrorism and uncertainty? What's up? What's going on out there? What should we be worried about?
Well, here's the thing. The worst 4-letter word that starts with fear when it comes to travel is fear. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It doesn't work with me. And the reason is, if you take a look at how many American civilian travelers, tourists, have been killed by acts of political violence and terrorism in almost 30 years, it's under 1,000. Now, let's put this in perspective. Every single week in this country, nearly 800 of our fellow citizens are seriously injured or killed in accidents in their own bathtubs. So when you...
Wait, what's that statistic again? Give that to me.
Every single week in this country, 800 of our fellow citizens, in that average, are either seriously injured or killed in their own bathtub. So when somebody says to me, you know what, I don't want to go there, I'm going to stay home because it's safer, I say, it's okay with me, but if you want to take a bath, you are on your own. Because, let's face it, we don't pack enough common sense. And if we pack common sense, there are only 4 places in the world I wouldn't go. So, and that includes everything we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
All right, wait a second.
I was just in London. I was just in Istanbul. I was just in Rwanda. I was just in Paris. And I'm sitting here with you, happy and healthy. And the reason is because terrorists don't go for the path of most resistance. They go for the path of least. And so once there's an incident, this is going to sound politically incorrect, but it's pragmatic. Once there's an incident, it's the best time to go.
All right, let's go. Let's start with your do not go list.
Okay.
Just to put it off, let's put it out there. Where should we not go? One.
Well, obviously, Syria.
Right. We're not going to Syria, even though, by the way, there are like beautiful artifacts in Syria.
Still left, yes. But you're not going there right now.
Okay, next.
Parts of Chechnya.
Okay.
parts of the Congo,
Okay.
and Camden, New Jersey. No, I'm just,
Stop it.
No. With all due respect to my friends in Camden, you get the point.
Yeah.
I've now run out of places. Because, look, there are places in New York I wouldn't go after 8 o'clock at night, and there are places in Chicago I wouldn't go after at night. But it wouldn't mean that I wouldn't go to Chicago. And it doesn't mean I wouldn't stay hanging out in New York. And that's where Americans really allow their fear to mandate their decision-making, which is flawed at that point.
You just got back from London and Istanbul, two of my favorite cities,
Yeah.
and both under very different kinds of alerts. So let's start with London. We had this actually like a string, it feels like.
Yes.
So in the last year, London, it feels like from the outside, even though you're right, reality is not the case, but it feels like it's been under siege. How did you experience travel to London?
Well, I'm going to put something in historical perspective. You want to talk about London under siege? Talk to them about 1941.
Yeah, bad time to visit London.
Bad time. That was under siege.
Right.
The Brits respond very well and very commonsensically to this situation. It's part of our life these days. Now, I'm not saying we should ignore it, and I'm certainly not saying we should poo-poo it. I'm just saying let's be aware of it and then adjust to it. And I felt no fear at all in London. I never have. I never felt any fear in Paris. Paris, by the way, Paris is down about 22% right now in terms of visitors. What a great time to go.
Is it cheaper?
Well, the power of the U.S. dollar against the euro, my God, it's a 40% discount on anything you want. And when I say anything you want, what most travelers don't realize, it's not just about the cost of the airfare or the hotel room. It's the cost of a tube of toothpaste, a taxi ride, basic goods and services that the locals have to pay, which, by the way, they can't adjust the rates on. You're getting a deal. So go out and have fun.
Okay.
By the way, I just had lunch.
Yeah.
I'm not making this figure up. I had lunch in Istanbul last week at a beautiful fish restaurant with a very good friend of mine who's Turkish. She took me there. This is what we ordered for lunch. We each had a sea bass. Mm-hmm. We each had vegetables. I had a ginger ale. I was really styling. She had, I think, a glass of white wine. And I thought there was a typo. What do you think my tab was, including the service charge?
$50.
$11.84.
All right. But, all right, I love Istanbul.
Yeah.
Fantastic city. A little scary. So remember when I went there, I talked to you about this.
Yeah.
I went there, I believe it was in the fall of 2015. And I got back, and it was that very first domestic terrorist attack in Ankara.
Right.
But it seemed to be that things really escalated since then. And when I was there, our tour guide was wonderful, but she did talk a lot about how Erdogan was cracking down, and there were a series of bad things starting to happen. What was your impression of Istanbul on the ground?
Well, let's start with the good news. The good news is the city is just as beautiful now. I was at San Sofia. I was in the Cistern. I went to the Covered Bazaar. I mean, all my favorite haunts. It was empty.
Yeah, no one wants to
Empty.
go there.
Every single U.S. cruise line, every single international cruise line no longer makes it a port of call because their insurance companies will not bond them. Tour groups are not going because their insurance companies won't bond them. There's fear again. However, you know what? I walked the streets. I didn't have a problem. I had a great time. Here's my $11 sea bass bill. Come on. I mean, so now, does that take away from the fact that I don't necessarily agree with everything the government is doing? Not in the least. I mean, you take a look at Egypt, you look at Turkey, you look at the Philippines, and you're looking at three different governments that actually delight in putting journalists in prison. Not a good idea, since I happen to be one.
Right.
But of course, of what it means. However, for most people listening to this program, understand this. Nothing comes close to the economic power of travel and tourism. And if you don't have it, you can't build those bridges of peace. You can't wedge those open doors. I mean, let's go back to ping-pong diplomacy in China, and we go everywhere since. And mark my words, we can say anything we want about North Korea right now, but I'll tell you what he's thinking secretly. He's cutting deals on the side, not with Americans, but with German companies and Swiss companies and Spanish companies to build up his infrastructure, because the only thing that's going to save that country is travel and tourism. Name one thing the North Koreans produce that we consume in volume. Unless you're in the market for unreliable Scud missiles,
right.
The answer is zero. Okay?
So Istanbul, a great bargain. Turkish lira down tremendously.
Oh, yeah, devalued, yes.
Anywhere in Europe, And are there other places in Europe that when I spoke to you a long time ago, you were very high on Portugal.
I just got back from there as well. It is even better than that now.
Really?
Yeah. Imagine a place that's got a high standard of living and a low cost of living. You can't get a better combination than that. Once again, a dinner for two is about $40, but at a great restaurant, you can't get anywhere near that. And the fish there, the people there, their sense of service, their sense of honesty. You know what? I know why Americans go to France, and I know why they go to Italy, and I know why they go to Spain. They're all failed art history majors. I got it. But if you really want to have a wonderful time, you go to Portugal.
All right, we will be back with Peter Greenberg in a second, but during the break, if you've got a financial question, just give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Want to get in touch? Call or email any day, anytime. 855-411-JILL or askjill@jillonmoney.com.
You're back with Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life, but not today so much. Today we're talking travel. One of my favorite topics, and Mark's as well. Mark being a big traveler, although mostly you don't do a lot of travel in the U.S. anymore. You do mostly Europe now. Yeah, he feels guilty about that. And maybe he's going to feel guiltier because he's not going to be able to go some places with his girlfriend who maybe eventually, hopefully might get pregnant someday. Maybe she has to worry about Zika virus. And for that, we need to talk to Peter Greenberg, our guest, CBS News travel editor, about Zika and all things travel related. Let me go into a different region of the world. Let's go to Zika land.
Yeah.
Give me a Zika update.
Okay.
Because a lot of people listening to this program, I know this. We have some young listeners.
Yes.
And young women have been warned by many of their doctors, if you are pregnant, thinking about getting pregnant, do not go to the Caribbean at all. Is that so?
You know what? I would not argue with that except for the following. Look at the numbers. Look at the actual numbers. I've been to those places. I've been, we could even start in Miami for that matter, but you can talk to Puerto Rico and their numbers just plummeted because of fear. Now look at the numbers of cases.
I know, but if I were a young lass and I was of childbearing age.
Oh, but darling, you are a young lass. Yeah.
I just wouldn't chance it. Where would I go otherwise? What if I want to go to a nice warm weather vacation and there's no Zika worry? Where do I go?
Well, in the Caribbean, you just go south of the hurricane belt to Grenada or down to Barbados, where you're not going to have a problem with storms, and the weather's great.
What do you think about, in general, of the sort of the Mexican safety factor? A lot of people get nervous about going to Mexico. Same thing. I'm going to do the fear stuff, then we're going to do fun also.
Okay.
But there are a lot of people who say to me, I used to love to go to Mexico City, but I wouldn't go there now. Too violent.
Oh, my God. You know what? If you happen to be a well-known drug dealer, that would probably be good advice. However, we are not the targets. It's Mexican crime against Mexicans. It's gang against gang. In the last 5 or 6 years, we've had, it's a terrible statistic, over 60,000 people killed in the drug wars in Mexico.
My God.
How many Americans?
I don't know.
22. Now, of the 22 killed, 19 of them were visiting American drug dealers.
Oh.
So the other 3 were maybe hit by a bus. So the point is, look at the numbers. It doesn't stop me from going there at all. It's great.
If I were going to go to South America, where would I want to go?
Well, Buenos Aires and Argentina for sure, because the dollar is still so strong down there. I'm a huge fan of Chile. That little string bean of a country has everything from the driest desert in the world, the Atacama in the north, all the way down to all the Lake District outside of Santiago, and then down south, of course, to Patagonia. Amazing. There's a little community on the coast called La Serena. This little 19th century fishing village. If you go there, don't get mad at me when you move there.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one. All right. Now, I'm going to go far afield to other continents, and then I'm coming back home to the U.S. And then
Okay.
we're going to do some like real hardcore travel tips.
Okay.
I have been to Australia many times. I have family there. Are you a fan or not a fan?
Huge fan.
And huge country, by the way.
Huge country. I've been going to Australia since I was, 23. And
Why'd you go when you were 23?
here's what happened. I was a correspondent for Newsweek. I never took a vacation because I couldn't. I was always on the road covering something. My very best friend was my biggest competitor from Time magazine, and he had no vacation that he'd ever taken. And by the way, one day, both magazines sent edicts out saying, if you don't take your vacation time, you're going to lose it.
Uh-oh.
So we got together. We went over to his house, had a drink. I said, okay, spin the globe. Close your eyes, hit it, and that's where we're going. And he hit Australia. And that's how we went.
And where was your first trip? Where did you go first?
We went
Sydney?
first to Sydney,
Yep.
of course. And then we went everywhere. And like Tasmania. We went to places that other people didn't go in those days, like Perth or up to Darwin. We didn't go to Coober. Oh, actually, we went to Coober Pedy. I took the Indian Pacific train, the longest piece of straight railroad track in the world. It goes all across the outback. It's amazing. And imagine, Miss Kitty and Marshall Dillon and, Dodge City. It's out there, folks.
You know what's funny is that I've been to Australia so many times, and embarrassingly, I have never been beyond, really, Sydney or the Great Barrier Reef.
Well, check out Tasmania. Once again, this goes back to my friends saying to me, why would you go to Tasmania? We don't go. That's why. There's a museum down there called Mona, owned by just this wild, eccentric millionaire. And anything he ever likes is in the museum. You need to see this museum.
Oh, it's like the Barnes Foundation in Philadelphia.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, Africa.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one, it's a long schlep for a lot of people.
Yep.
Pick one place that gives you a great African experience all around. So it's not just the let's go and look at lions, tigers, and bears, oh my.
Well, if that's the case, you're still in South Africa. You still have to go to Cape Town. You still have to go to Pretoria. And the reason why you go to Pretoria, which is the capital, is not to hang out in Pretoria, but to get on one of the most amazing railroad trips you'll ever take called Rovos Rail. Rohan Voss found these discarded, never used train cars that were developed for royalty. They were just sitting on a siding. And he went to South African Railways and said, can I have them? And make a trip out of it. And he found the old steam engines. This is Out of Africa Part 2. It leaves from Pretoria, goes through Zimbabwe, and ends up at Victoria Falls. You need to take this. This makes the Orient Express look like Ding Dong School. Trust me.
And the Orient Express still, by the way, runs?
It still runs. It still runs from the station in Paris all the way to Venice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, if we bring it back home
Yes.
here in the U.S.
Yes.
Oh, Mark is now mad at me because I didn't ask you about Asia because, of course, I've been, so I don't care. No. Okay, let's do it. Let's do Asia. We missed Asia.
Well, yeah.
So Asia's like a zillion different countries, right? So I'm going to give you my 2 cents, which is I thought of every single place I've ever been in Asia. I love Tokyo because it's such a wild place.
It is.
You feel so different.
High energy.
Yeah. I love Shanghai, though. To me, that city is such a fascinating place.
Shanghai to me is Asia body heat. Shanghai to me is you walk along the Bund and it's sexy.
Yes.
It's sexy and it's hot and the restaurant scene is unbelievable and the hotel scene is unbelievable.
And the history is fascinating.
The history is fascinating.
And I went on that Jewish tour there.
Oh, they have everything.
There were a few Jews there for a while.
Absolutely.
I thought that Beijing was interesting. I can't say it was fun.
You know what it is? You have to have an emotional connection. And to me, I have an emotional connection in Shanghai.
Right.
I don't have an emotional connection in Beijing. It's where the embassies are,
Right.
And yes, you go to the Forbidden City and you do the Great Wall. And if you're going to do the Great Wall, don't do a tour.
Right.
Here's what you do. You hire a driver, and they're all going to look at you like you're crazy. You say to your hotel concierge, I'd like to hire a driver to meet me downstairs at 4 in the morning. And they're going to say to you, well, no, you take our tour. No. Get in that car. Get to the base of the wall, and you climb it in the darkness. And by the time you get to the top as the sun is rising, you're the only one there with a few elderly Chinese doing their Tai Chi, and you have your moment. It's the best. And then as you start coming down, then you see the line of tour buses coming up with people screaming, Murray! You know your time to leave.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's another place in Asia I have to mention, and that's Thailand. And the reason why I mentioned Thailand, and I'm partial to it in the interest of full disclosure, I also live there.
Oh.
I've had a place there since 1992.
Funny you've never invited me.
Well, you usually invite yourself. What are you talking And it's right on the river. It's amazing. There's an old Groucho Marx line that said, I would never join a club that would have me as a member. right? And when you first come to Thailand, you're going to have that feeling like, why are they being so nice to me? They must be meeting somebody else named Greenberg. Then you find out it has nothing to do with you. It's who they are. They define and refine hospitality, service, style, grace. I can go on. That's why I'm there. Once again, like Portugal, high standard of living, low cost of living.
Shanghai, so China, Thailand. Talk to me about if you want to do Vietnam.
Well, here's why Bangkok comes into play. If you look at the map, Bangkok flight to Vietnam, 40 minutes. Bangkok flight to Cambodia, 40 minutes. Bangkok flight to Laos, 40 minutes. Use Bangkok as your hub and do 2 or 3 day trips like hub and spoke. You'll have a great time.
Oh, that's interesting. Good to know. Okay, we'll be back with Peter in 1 minute or maybe a little bit more. This is Jill on Money. Give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Want to get in touch? Call or email any day, anytime. 855-411-JILL or ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com.
You're back with Jill on Money. You want to ramble on? Want to take a summer trip? Maybe you want to take a fall trip and plan it now. Thankfully, we have a fabulous guest with us. Peter Greenberg, the CBS News travel editor. Before we went to the break, I said Mark's not a big U.S. traveler. Well, we've got some U.S.-based ideas. I have some. You know what trip I want to take, Mark? I want to do Savannah and Charleston. I want to do that trip. And then I also want to do like more national parks. That's really, I love the whole national park thing. It's fabulous. So where should we go? Peter Greenberg, what's the trip that people don't take that they should take here in the U.S.?
I just did it. And
Camden, New Jersey.
Well, we went by. No, actually, close to it. Nobody thinks about this, and they're not promoting it, which means do it. I took the Southern Crescent. What is the Southern Crescent, you might add? It's been around since 1849. It's a train that leaves New York's Penn Station at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and 30 hours later, you pull into New Orleans. You're going through 13 states, 33 different stations. You're in a sleeper car. You have a butler. You have a dining car.
Wait a minute, a butler? What is this? Is not Amtrak.
It is Amtrak.
You have a butler on Amtrak?
Absolutely. People don't know this. I'll give you another one. I was in Richmond, Virginia, doing my radio show and needed to get back to CBS. And the air service from Richmond to New York is terrible, and it's outrageously overpriced. So I checked the train schedules. Now, there's a Northeast Regional train that would stop in Richmond and stop in Washington, D.C. and come to Penn Station. It leaves at 5 in the morning, gets to Penn Station at 1 in the afternoon. And then there's the secret one. At 4:30 in the morning, show up at the station, and what shows up? Sounds like a bad Richard Pryor movie, The Silver Meteor. It starts in Miami. It's got butlers, sleeping cars, dining rooms, and you land at Penn Station at noon. So I had my own bedroom. I ate breakfast in style. I got to Penn Station at less money than what Delta Airlines wanted to charge me to fly from Richmond to LaGuardia.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your East Coast, couple of East Coast things.
Sure.
What about, let's go to the West Coast. What are some hidden gems on the West that people are not considering? I mean, everyone knows to go to the Grand Canyon or go to Seattle. Where
I'm going to go a little
going?
further north. It's the Canadian Northwest. It's the Canadian Rockies. It's going across Canada in the summer. It's brilliant. In Lake Louise, in Vancouver. And if you travel, once again, it's the trains. If you take a look at how the Canadian Rockies were built, I mean, it was built by the trains, the old Canadian Pacific Railroad. And all those hotels, those beautiful old Grand Dame hotels all throughout Canada were where the train stopped. So it's the Hotel Vancouver, it's the Banff Springs Hotel, it's the in Frontenac in Quebec. It's amazing, and you could have a great time.
I've actually been to the Chateau Frontenac, I think maybe 40 years ago, but I'm just...
Well, I read that police report.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was young, forgive me.
As I said, I read the police report.
All right, middle of the country, what should we do that we're not doing? And we know that there are big cities, but what are places that we're just missing?
Well, there's one that consistently attracts me, and I consistently go. It's the state of Wisconsin. Most people fly over it. They don't get it. They don't realize how beautiful it is. It's not just Milwaukee, which is an underrated city in the extreme, right on the lake. But you also have one of the most beautiful cities in America, Madison, Wisconsin, surrounded by 4 lakes. Always voted, consistently voted, not only just the best place to live, not only just the best place to raise kids, it's also even voted the best place to retire. It wins all 3. What does that tell you?
You're going to be a Badger, whether you like it or not.
Well, guess what? I am a Badger. I have to admit it. I went to school there.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about tactics now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you want to travel, you really have to kind of get your armor on and get ready to do it. So first, let me ask you how you see Airbnb changing the landscape of this business.
Well, it already has. And the reason why it is if you're a 1-star hotel, you can basically define your brand. Everybody knows what you're going to get, right? If you're a Motel 6 or a Hampton Inn, that's what it is. If you're a 5-star hotel, you can also define your brand, and people know what they're expecting of you, right? What if you're a 2 or 3-star hotel? Once again, no emotional connection. You're always going to get disappointed. And the reason why people stay at those 2 and 3-star hotels is either they're addicted to their frequent points program, or it's company travel policy, or there's a convention in town, and that's where the hotel is attached to the hip to the convention center. Nobody got up in the morning, with all due respect to the folks at Sheraton, but in my experience, nobody got up in the morning excited, emotionally thrilled to stay at a Sheraton, a Hyatt, or a Marriott. They're there or a Hilton. That's because those are there. So where Airbnb has had huge inroads, right, and a huge impact is in those 2 and 3-star areas where people are looking for a more genuine, authentic experience in real communities with real people, where they can basically hope to get an emotional connection. That's where they're finding it. Are
you a user of Airbnb, or are you more interested in doing the hotel thing just for work-wise?
If I was going to stay in a city for more than 5 or 6 days, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But usually, as you know, Jill, I'm like hitting the ground running. I'm there for 24 hours. I just need basic goods and services, connectivity, see you later, I'm gone. So, no, but if I was staying someplace for 5 or 6 days, why not? And by the way, Airbnb is just not homes. They're castles and lighthouses and villas. I mean, look at their listings. It's amazing. And, we mentioned Cuba, and if we haven't, we will.
Yeah.
There are 8,000 Airbnb listings now in Cuba.
And that's amazing because there aren't so many great hotels there.
Which is why the prices are so high, which is why so many people aren't going, which is why the airlines have cut back service because there's no infrastructure. The only guys who are going to do it well are the cruise lines because they're a floating hotel. They don't need a hotel.
Interesting. What about in terms of searching for a hotel room versus an Airbnb? Are there certain aggregation sites that you like better than others?
Yeah, it's called Pick Up Phone, Talk to You.
No, really.
I'm not kidding.
Not
you.
Trivago or whatever?
Look, I'm not dumping on the websites. I'm putting them in proper context. Only 52% of available inventory is online. Do not kid yourself. You've been steered into thinking it's all there. It's not. It's only what the travel providers make available online. So would you want to research online? You bet. And I know why people book online, because they could do it at 2 o'clock in the morning in their bathrobe. They don't have to talk to anybody. God forbid they should have a conversation. You need the conversation. So research online. Then here's a concept. Pick up phone, use fingers, dial, and talk to them. Whether that's an airline, a hotel, or a cruise line, because they have inventory there and itineraries there that they don't reveal online, which also includes on the airline level the seat assignments. If you go on those seating charts online, they're only designed in a calculated misery way for the upsell, because they're only going to show you the available middle seats. Duh. Why would I want to do that? Pick up the phone and talk to somebody.
All right, we'll have more with my interview with Peter Greenberg, CBS News travel editor, when we return. During the break, go check out our YouTube channel. Just search Jill Schlesinger. And subscribe to our podcast, Better Off. Get it on Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. We'll be right back.
Annuities, IRAs, 401ks. She covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
I know what you're thinking.
You're back with Jill on Money. And if you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. So we're talking summer travel, and CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg is our guest. It's very interesting. I used to be obsessed with making sure that I used up my miles because many years ago, Peter said to me, those miles they're kind of subject to inflation, meaning you're going to need more miles to buy fewer trips. So use them up which is fine. I've done that. But, then I started thinking there are times where it is better to just pay pay a cheap price. So I would check online. And then Peter Greenberg told me something that completely blew my mind. Wait till you hear about this. How to score the best airline deal. So wait a second. Let's talk about that with the airline tickets, because you told me this a long time ago. And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, it actually works where you go online. Not only is it a problem because you've searched you do a search and then you go back. Oh. And what happens when you go back?
Well, we did that piece here at CBS. I was looking for a fare from New York to L.A., because that's where I live, and I go back and forth here for CBS. And I found one, $420, but I didn't know if I was going to come in the next day or the next day because, as you know, I have to find out if I was booked on the show. So I waited until 4 o'clock in the morning, L.A. time, to call the guys in New York to say, hey, am I still doing the show tomorrow? Yes, you are. I go back online, and it went up $70 in 1 hour. So when I called the airlines on this, they say, well, look, you picked a route that's very popular, law of supply and demand. We adjust our price based on demand. And I said, okay, I'll take you at your word for that. But the next night, I decided to put them to the test. This was back in November. I looked for a fare from New York's LaGuardia to Des Moines, Iowa, on a Wednesday in March at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Not Easter, not spring break, not the Wednesday before Thanksgiving or the Friday before Super Bowl, just an arbitrary no-traffic day. I found a fare at 2 o'clock in the morning for $220. I waited an hour. I went back on my computer an hour later, and it went to $280. Now, no one can argue that in that 1 hour period, there were 50,000 deranged people who were just out of control wanting to go to Des Moines, Iowa 4 months later on a Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the morning in March. The lesson to be learned here, which, by the way, means the lesson to be applied here, is if you want to research online and you want to go back an hour later, either clean out your cookies or get somebody else's computer, because in the world of big data, they know you want to go. And they adjust accordingly. And they'll argue all the cases that they want that it's not true. Trust me, experientially, it is true. And to prove the point, obviously I didn't go to Des Moines. Ever since last November, every Tuesday I get an email telling me about all the great things I can do in Des Moines. They still think I'm going. I'm not.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
nothing wrong with Des Moines.
Nothing wrong with Des Moines.
Right.
No.
So calling the airlines works.
Yeah, but here's how you call the airlines.
Tell me.
Okay, I'm going to be the airline. Where do you want to go, by the way?
I want to go. Hold on a second. I want to go to San Francisco.
Just say you want to go to
I'm going to San Francisco.
Okay, so I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm answering the airline phone. And,
you say, hello, American Airlines.
Well, I would do it even better. Good morning, Draconian Airlines. Can I help you?
Hi. I am very interested in traveling to San Francisco.
And when would you like to go?
I want to go on Friday, July, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, now you're in trouble. You gave me too much information, even in the best of intentions. You told me when you wanted to go. Now I can step you up. Here's how I do it. Okay, now you be the airline.
Okay.
Hey, listen, I want to go from New York to San Francisco, but before you ask me when I want to go, can you please punch up on your computer every published fare you have on the New York-San Francisco route? I'll wait. Wait a minute. So I have to ask for the published every
fare.
Published fare you have on your system between New York and San Francisco, I'll wait. You know how long that takes them to punch that up?
How long?
6 seconds.
Okay.
And now you say, can you do me a favor? Can you please scroll to the bottom of that list? Okay, what's that fare? Oh, that's $270. And what are the restrictions on that fare? Well, that's a YE2B79C fare. Only good on a Wednesday if your middle name is Murray and you have a snowmobile and you can hop. And you go, hold on a second. I can change my middle name to Murray. I can borrow stuff. I can hop. So what you end up doing is you decide the fare you want to buy as opposed to the one they want you to step up to buy.
Ah, that's interesting.
So you preempt them asking you the question, when do you want to go, and get the number of fares that they have on that route, and then start at the bottom and work your way up till you get one that you like.
What if you have, you do have an actual deadline, you have to go to a wedding or something, then you're kind of stuck with that date, no?
You're stuck with that date, but not necessarily that airport. Think of alternate airports. Providence instead of Boston, Oakland instead of San Francisco, Ontario instead of LAX. I mean, there are all sorts of ways you can do things that the airlines may not want you to do, but the fares are much lower.
So are you saying that the dirty little secret of airfare travel, of airfare booking rather, is that you really need to call?
Oh, 100%.
That's amazing to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And not only that, the same thing applies for hotels, because you think it's just based on the rate. It's not. It's based on the value. So we're all looking for a great rate. You see all these ads all the time for Trivago and everybody else. We're going to go you the best rate. Okay, maybe it's the best rate, but it may not be the best deal. And the reason is it can't answer questions like, can my kids stay free? Can they eat free? Will you throw in free parking? Will you get rid of the resort fee? Will you give me free Wi-Fi?
Well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You can bargain with a hotel about that?
Everything's negotiable.
So I can call up the blah, 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 ABC
I do it every
hotel
day,
and
every
say,
day.
I don't want to pay the Wi-Fi
Well,
fee or whatever.
You don't say, I don't want to pay. You establish a nice relationship. You do what your mother told you. Get their first and last name, write a thank you letter, do
Right.
all those things. But no, you have a conversation. You let them know that you're interested in staying at the hotel. And most importantly, you're interested in coming back. Hotels don't make money when you stay once. They make money when you come back and tell your friends. They get that. And then when you have that relationship with them, you could say, hey, listen, can you throw in the Wi-Fi? Can you throw in free parking? I was staying at a hotel in San Francisco. I'll tell you the name of the hotel, Ritz-Carlton. I was going to be renting a car. So I found a great rate online, but I didn't book it online. That was my starting point. Then I got on the phone, got a better deal with the hotel directly. But the conversation didn't end with the rate. It was just getting started. Then I said, hey, listen, will you throw in the free Wi-Fi? Okay, sure. How about free parking? Okay. It was only when I was checking out of the hotel that I found out they were charging $42 a night for parking. I was there for 3 nights. That one phone call saved me more than $120.
Okay, lesson learned. Pick up the phone, just like your mother told you. You're listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
I wish for something new. Yeah, I wanted something beautiful. I wish for something true. Been looking for
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, a money question, a retirement question, or travel question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Thanks again to Peter Greenberg for joining us. If you want to read more about Peter Greenberg, go to his website, petergreenberg.com. You'll get all you need to know. Meanwhile, I'm sort of obsessed with travel, but which is great. A lot of people, don't like it. I understand there's a schlep factor. But, even if you're not going to travel, I really do think it is so important to take your vacation. I feel like so many people, they have vacation days, they don't take them. So I ran across this survey that the annual number of vacation days that Americans use has steadily declined over the past 2 decades. Now, I'm not talking about people who are like, oh, my God, I don't get any vacation because I have 3 jobs and I work part-time and no one but I'm talking about people who are awarded vacation and do not use it. And there is an analysis from Oxford Economics that tried to quantify it. Check this out, Mark. Workers leave $52 billion in these unused benefits on the table. Not us is right. I don't know why people are doing this because it makes me so upset. It really does. I just feel like, come on. Some people have said to me, you know what, I don't want to go away and I hate vacation because I cannot actually deal with the fact that I come back and get slammed with work. Okay. But all this research shows that when you take your benefits, you take your vacation, you'll be recharged, you'll be more productive. Just use use your out of office functions, manage it better, but do it. And don't work so much while you're on vacation. That's what Mark tells me. All right, that's it. That's the program. Thanks for listening. Go book your trip right now. Jill on Money. Shoot us an email when you have a chance. Ask Jill@jillonmoney.com. We'll see you next week, and thanks for listening.